Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 4:45 p.m. last breakout session of the day. As a reminder, for continuing education credit, please make sure your name is correct on your Zoom login. In addition, at the close of this session, we will give away door prizes. So you must be present in the Zoom meeting during that time in order to win. After the door prizes, be sure to come back for our special interest groups, 6:30 to 7:30 this evening. Those will be Women in GIS, GIS Leadership, GIS Early Career, and Enterprise and Natural Resources Environmental. Be sure to check out the NCAUG merchandise on the conference page. All proceeds go to the scholarship funds. This session, as well as all sessions, are going to be recorded and put up on the NCAUG YouTube page after the conference. It does take a little time to upload those, so please be patient with us. And with that, I'd like to welcome and thank everyone for attending the NC Statewide Orthoimagery Program Color Infrared and Next Steps session. Our speaker today is Ben Shelton. Ben is a project manager for the North Carolina Center for Geographic Information and Analysis, or CGIA. Ben has over 15 years of experience in the GIS industry, working with local, state, and federal agencies. He has a bachelor's degree from Old Dominion University and a master's in GIS from Penn State University. Currently, he is the project manager for the NC 911 Board Statewide Orthoimagery Program and leads the NC broadband mapping efforts in collaboration with the NC Broadband Infrastructure Office. So we encourage you all to enter questions into the chat box and we'll answer them at the end of the session. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ben. Ben, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody attending this, the last session of the day. I know everybody's kind of probably getting a little worn out of sessions, but I appreciate everybody making time to come and hear me ramble on about imagery again. Like Richard said, I am the statewide program manager for the imagery program here in North Carolina. I just wanted to start off with a quick overview of where we're at in the current cycle of imagery collection. We're currently underway with the 2021 Eastern Piedmont project in the green area there, centered around Raleigh-Durham and Fort Bragg, Camp McCall area there in green. With an eye on 2022's project area, and I'll get a little bit of details about that upcoming project as well. All right, and like I always kind of mention, and some of you may recognize this slide, each of these projects is a huge collaboration from many different organizations, state organizations, local government. 911 Board funds this program annually. It's made up of a large team that we collaborate with. We have the NCDOT photogrammetry unit. They provide a lot of technical support and assistance for us and educate us on the photogrammetry side of things. We have the Department of Public Safety Geodetic Survey led by Gary Thompson. They administer the horizontal quality control, make sure the products are as accurate as we want them to be. But we feel like a lot of the what sets us apart from other imagery sources that you may see out there is our horizontal accuracy. We try to make it as tight as possible so that it's any mapping products that are made from this imagery are as accurate as we can get on 6-inch imagery. Then we have the Secretary of State's office, the Land Records Management Division. They administer all of our statewide orthoimagery standards and are integral to our project team. And then we have all the public safety answering points, local government GIS, all the end users contribute, end review, help us develop the products that they need. Then we also have, of course, our private imagery contractors that collect the imagery, process everything, and create all the great products that we deliver. And then we have our online voice QC. If you've been a part of that in the past, that's a big part of our program, is allowing end users to get access to the imagery during the summer before we deliver, point out any issues and get those things resolved before we deliver that imagery. So there's no issues on the back end usually. All right, and then so in 2020, we kind of started a new approach. This is our Coastal 2020 project area. It's 27 counties along the coast. It was the first project in the program history that we were able to develop and produce 4-band imagery products for those 27 counties. So, typically in the past in collections, we would do the RGB, the usual 6-inch imagery. But starting in 2020 and going forward, we're developing imagery that includes that color infrared fourth band. We feel that adds a lot more value, and the storage cost and the processing cost for developing it has really come down in recent years. So it really is negligible cost, but a lot of added benefit on the back end. And you can access our imagery services using that link there for the 2020 service. Our current ortho latest service, many of you may use, that covers the whole state and always has the latest year of imagery. That is going to remain as an RGB 3-band service until we get an entire state collected with this fourth band. And then at that point, we'll convert that over to a 4-band image service. But currently, if you want to use 4-band imagery from the 2020 project, you just load the single 2020 image year service. And as you can see here, we also provide a color infrared false color image service if you're just looking at visualization for the color infrared band. So going forward, we're developing that color infrared. We're including it as part of our 2021 project shown here. Like I said before, it's centered around Raleigh-Durham. We're doing a true ortho collection in those two urban districts. This started about 2017. We started developing what's called in the industry true ortho imagery. It requires a lot more flight lines, a lot more acquisition, and a lot more processing on the back end to produce. But in the end, what they do is they create 3D building models, and they're able to take all of the building lean out of anything that's over 40 feet in height. That's what our standard calls for. So with that, they take out all that building lean, those tall structures, and then you can see all the pavement, all the infrastructure around each of those buildings without having to worry about that little bit of lean that is normally there. And also in this project area, we have the Fort Bragg military installation in Camp McCall. And if you're familiar with past projects in this area, you'll see there's on NC1 map all the imagery services and things for Camp Lejeune and Fort Bragg and Camp McCall have a little donut hole there where we're redacting that imagery for those military installations. Well, I'm happy to report, working with our partners at Fort Bragg, that Fort Bragg and Camp McCall will be included in all the imagery available on NC1 map, so you won't have to worry about that donut hole in the imagery services. I think year after year, they've seen the value of the products that we're delivering, and they're seeing the benefits of making that available on NC1 map. So we're able to do that this year. But the 4 contractors listed here are the acquisition vendors for this year. They're working diligently. We're actually in the middle of receiving all the final imagery from them, starting to in the next month or so. Here's a quick overview of our acquisition season this year. I like to highlight this because this is really the stress point of each project, getting the imagery acquired before the leaf-on conditions, making sure that everything is collected in the right ground conditions. This year, we were really lucky. Atlas Geographic down there in the southwest portion of the project area, they were able to get into that Fort Bragg restricted airspace, collect that in January, and get that knocked out so we wouldn't have to stress about getting into that restricted airspace. A lot of times you get kicked out if they have training exercises and whatnot, and you really need clear blue skies to collect imagery. So it becomes a juggling act. So to get that collected that early in the project area was a big stress release. So the rest of the acquisition this year went pretty well. About March, the early March period, we started seeing a lot of rain in the area. And so that's where you see like around Lake Jordan, the Tar River, Roanoke River, and around Lumberton and Robertson. Those areas did experience some flooding in the spring, so we had to wait for some water to recede in those areas, and that's why you see the later collection in those areas. But we were able to get everything with leaf on or leaf off conditions, and so we were happy about that. And that's always the stressful point. And like I said, we're kind of closing out our quality control period currently, starting to receive the final imagery from the vendors, and then we'll work to produce all the different products that we produce and get that delivery, which earlier than past projects, we're anticipating about mid-November, we're going to deliver the products to all the counties and end users, which, we're currently NC1 map and CGIA, we're kind of migrating to an Amazon AWS infrastructure. And we're hoping to gain a lot more efficiencies and start to get these products out developed and delivered out there earlier. So mid-November is what we're anticipating this year, which we're confident we can make. The 2022 project area, we're currently in the contracting phase of this project. It's the 26 counties shown here with a big emphasis on those red tiles out in the mountains. Those mountain tiles, we require increased specifications for flight line spacing, 3D flight planning, snow cover. There's a lot more requirements for the contractors out in that area. So that's a little stressful, and that's where the emphasis comes from. And that's why our acquisition kind of goes a little later in this project area. But speaking of the true ortho that we were doing in Raleigh-Durham, we're doing that in Greensboro and Winston-Salem, similar that we were doing that we did in 2018. So that process and those buildings in those areas will have zero lien at the end. So with the 2022 project coming up, if you're in that project area and you're interested in any kind of BuyUp projects, typically we see some products like higher resolution. So instead of the normal 6-inch imagery, people will request 3-inch imagery and buy that from our vendors, or they will pursue maybe a true ortho in different areas that we did not require. If you have a downtown area that you feel that would benefit from that. Or just general planimetric data creation. So building footprints, impervious surfaces, tree canopy, things like that can be derived photogrammetry based solutions for those kind of products can be achieved contracting with our vendors and doing that. So the contracting kind of has to go separate than the state contracts, but we're here to help get you any information, get you contacts or quotes to get your process started. So here's our project timeline for 2022. So typically our QBS process goes and we try to get contracts in place about the November timeframe, about the same time we're delivering our products this year. So once we've had our contractors selected, I can get the contact details for those contractors to anyone who's interested in BuyUp products, the true orthoimagery or the higher resolution. Because those two products really the contracts need to be in place before our imagery acquisition begins in February, because that will really impact their flight planning and getting ready to get those aircraft in the air in collection. But with that, our imagery production goes through the summer, and our quality control, we're again going to pursue doing our online voice QC process. And with that, if you're in that project area, you look for my email communications or reach out to me if you're not on that communication list, and we'll get you involved in that voice QC and get that imagery reviewed during the summer. And even with this mountain collection and a little higher standards for the collection in the mountains and later acquisition, we're still trying to anticipate delivery in mid-November of next year. This is our first go through with using the AWS server infrastructure to do our validation and create all of our derived products. We're hoping that gains us some efficiencies for next year that we can continue to deliver these products in November going forward. Just a quick overview. I know some people may use the image services, but a lot of people still like to have that downloaded imagery product. So this is just our current products that we're offering on NC1 Map. We have on the right there, it's our the latest single file county mosaic for each county. So you can go into a map interface or the drop down there on the bottom, easily click what county you're interested in, get the most recent county mosaic that's available. In 2020 going forward, those county mosaics will be that 4-band generation 4 county mosaic. So it'll be a Mr. SID, but it's 50:1 compressed. So the sizes vary about 10 to 20 gigabytes. So it might be a long download, but we haven't had any issues with people downloading from NC1 Map. And then we also, on the left there, it shows the interface for downloading single tiles of imagery. These are the Mr. SID 20:1 compressed tiles. So starting in 2020, we developed that 4-band generation 4 Mr. SID product. We received some feedback from our end users and in the surveying and CAD industries. Some software packages like Autodesk and MicroStation, things like that, can't handle a Generation 4 SID or the 4-band. It kind of comes up with some issues in some areas. So we decided to offer both the 4-band Generation 4 SID tile, but also a 3-band Generation 3 SID tile. And if you can see here on the 2020 tile, there's 2 options there for download if you're interested in either one of those. If you're interested in downloading multiple tiles, all of our image services on NC1Map have the capability enabled to pull that into ArcMap or Arcgis Pro. And using the select tool, you can select the source rasters in the image service itself, and right-clicking it will give you an option to download the source rasters. And then you can download multiple tiles that way. Currently, that downloads the SID tiles, the Gen 4 4-band SID tiles, because that is the source for our image services. But going forward, as NC1Map completes its migration into AWS, what we anticipate is our image services will use cloud optimized geotiffs. And it'll just look like a TIFF tile, but when you download it, it'll download all of these compressed TIFF tiles instead of the SID tiles. We feel that'll be a good improvement for the end users as well, because it's more of an open source flexible format, whereas the SID's kind of more of a proprietary format. So it's the same process in Arcgis Pro and ArcMap to download those cloud optimized geotiffs. And it should be seamless whenever we make the transition to AWS, the services and everything, all the URLs will remain the same. But we're also trying to leverage the cheaper storage that's out there in the cloud, and we're going to be offering multiple years of countywide mosaic. So if you're interested in going back and like in the current project year, if you want 2017 or 2013 Wake County mosaics, those will be available as well, and alongside the 2021 mosaic once that gets available. So we're trying to make it a little flexible to offer more products since the storage is cheaper out in the cloud, and offer different formats going forward. So just be aware of that, and we'll try to communicate that going forward when those things become available. The color infrared, if you're interested in what is color infrared, a little bit more details on the NC1Map imagery page. We have a link there, and that link will take you to a story map here that I'm showing. I don't know if you can still see, or is it just the slides? But the story map will give you a little more details about what is color infrared, what can it be used for, how is it used in land classification, what kind of processes and other derived products like NDVI are available and how those format. So all of that can be found on the NC1Map website if you're interested in a little bit more detail, just about what it is and how it's used. On our projects, we're seeing a lot more different uses that we really didn't anticipate when we started pursuing this 4th band. The primary one on the front end that we're seeing is a lot of our contractors, as they're acquiring the imagery, they acquire thousands and thousands of exposures, and they have to really quickly assess, is this acceptable imagery? Are the ground conditions, are what the state wants, are the rivers within their banks? Well, one of the uses that color infrared is being used for that we didn't really anticipate is they can assess flooding conditions a lot quicker. The vegetation and the water really kind of contrasts really easily, and you can pick that up on the eye. So they can quickly have people scan these images in color infrared and see pictures like this, where this is the Lumber River near Lumberton. It was outside of its banks in early March. And quickly they can see the extent of the flooding and exactly which exposures need to be recollected. So this was a good benefit of beginning to acquire the color infrared just for our project and increasing our efficiencies. Another one we're looking at is, Esri has been really good at putting out these new deep learning models in the Living Atlas. One of them that I'm particularly interested in is this building footprints extraction. It makes it very streamlined and easy to pull in imagery products, and using an image analyst extension and a 3D analyst extension, you can pretty quickly and easily pull out some building footprints based on new imagery acquisition. So something that we're kind of pursuing and looking at for the future is to pull in an entire project into an AWS server and running the whole project area, or at least pieces to get the whole project area, to run this deep learning model and pull out the building footprints from the imagery. You know, with every automated process, you can probably get about 85% of the way there. And there still requires about 15% of manual edits. Just in this one example, you'll see it did really well at collecting some of the buildings, but there's maybe a smaller building, maybe some settings need to be tweaked there. There's a large building here on the very edge of this image that did not get collected in that feature extraction. So just little things like that we need to look out for, clean up the data a little bit more. So we're still pursuing how that's going to work. And then maybe this can be used to update statewide building footprint data sets that are, you know, already available through DPS and other organizations. So, you know, we're trying to pursue those and get a little more value on the back end of these imagery products. We have the cloud computing capabilities now, or we will in the near future, and we're trying to leverage those to get a little bit more value off the imagery in the back. And real quick, I'm kind of running out a little bit of a time, but I just like to kind of throw these up there if anybody's just the basic technical how to use the color infrared or visualize the color infrared. In ArcMap, it's a little harder. You have to actually go into the table of contents, right click and go into the layer properties and manually reorder those bands into 412 instead of 123. And doing so will get you this false color infrared view of the data. Thankfully in Arcgis Pro, they've made this a lot simpler. You just kind of highlight the layer in your table of contents. That activates this mosaic layer menu in the ribbon on the top, and really quickly you can change the band combination between true color and color infrared, and then, you know, switch back and forth as necessary. So they've made it a lot easier in Arcgis Pro, and I think this is a lot more useful. And then I just like to close it one little quick blip of Arcgis Pro tip. So when you pull in imagery products into Arcgis Pro, a lot of imagery products come in and they automatically apply a stretch or a gamma adjustment that's adjusting the radiometry or the color of the imagery in your program. You know, we spend a lot of time in the spring with our vendors making sure that they match up. You know, there's always going to be a little bit of difference technically because of ground conditions or the sensors they're using. There's just a wide range of things that can affect the radiometry or color of the imagery, but we spend a lot of time making the imagery look the way we want it, and then you pull in Arcgis Pro and sometimes it'll tweak that imagery a little bit. So I just like to make sure that everybody's aware to go into that appearance menu for the raster layer, turn the stretches off and the gamma adjustments off, and you'll get what our imagery is really intended to look like. So I just like to close on that. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything. But like I said before, if you're interested in any of the BuyUp projects for the 2022 project area or going forward, feel free to reach out to me or my team, and we'll try to get you the information that you need.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. That's some great information, awesome products. It's always good to get a good update for those. Let's see, I'm gonna check the chat here real quick and see if we have any questions. Looks like Brett Spivey posted the BuyUp options available at NC1 map up there. So feel free, everyone, to jump out there and copy that link and check out those products. And looks like we have some questions coming in from Connie. Do you think about hiring a vendor to do the building footprints extracting?
Yes. Well, if the funding sources are available, you know, like everything in state government, if we can find the funding available, you know, we can probably get to the 85% building footprints. It's just always that last, you know, getting over that last mile to get to the final product. That's really a quality product you want to be distributing. So, you know, I have anticipated that question, and I do anticipate that we'll try to look at maybe contracting some of that out, or, you know, hiring interns or temp staff or something like that. So there's options out there we're pursuing. It's just all about where the money is, like usual.
Awesome. Sounds good. Looks like James Scanlon said, do the collection contractors use all the same sensor?
No, they don't. So typically, you know, in the beginning of the program we started, they had like DMC1, smaller format cameras. Now they're all kind of what is called second generation sensors, which are, you know, there's Ultracam Eagles on the program. There's the ADS-100 push broom sensor is a lot different than those frame-based sensors. So it kind of collects a single scan of imagery as they fly along. And then, you know, there's the DMC3s by Leica. There's quite a few different wide-ranging sensors, and they all fly at different heights and have different footprints. So that all has to be taken into account when we're planning our projects out.
Gotcha. And Zach Peterson just wanted to say great info, great presentation, especially with the tips on Arcgis Pro for viewing other bands. And it looks like that's everything we have in our chat for now. And I think Bailey's going to post the exit poll for everyone to fill out. So please hit that up. And as I see no other questions from the chat, I just want to thank you on behalf of NCCGIA, Ben, for presenting to us today. It's great information, and we appreciate the update. And just want to let everyone know to have a great evening, and make sure you go to the special interest group sessions starting at 6:30 this evening. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.